This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. Any questions, guys? Anyone, any questions before we can get started? Right. So you can also use a double quote inside the array. Shouldn't be an issue. So, mhm. Okay, individual index values. I'll talk about that today. Like, how do you go and call the individual index values, and what is an index value, and all these concepts. Correct. 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 Mm-hmm. We'll look at that too. Like, what is indexing, and how do you call the index values, and all these things. Yes. Any more questions here? Again, to just to recollect what we were doing yesterday, we started off with a simple statement called write host, and we said something like hello world, and after that we put something as a foreground color to it. Like, we change the color of that particular statement out here by using argument called foreground color, and we change the color out here to yellow and all these things out. And in order to execute this particular statement, I'm saying either you select everything or you put your cursor here and just execute this out by using this particular button here, which is F8, a shortcut F8 out here in your keyboard, which is going to give you something like hello world and all these statements out there. And then we were talking about data types. We said what is a string, and we said any simple object. For example, Kiran, a name out here, is a string. And then we said, then what is an array list or an array? You can also call this as an array list or an array, anything is okay. Here, if we say names, then I said it is at the rate, open and close parentheses. And inside these parentheses, you can go ahead again. If you want to give it in double quotes, you can still give it in double quotes. Say Kiran, Suresh, Ravi, something like this. You can give it in double quotes, single quotes, anything kind of works. Even string can be passed it in a single quote, not a problem. So should work fine out there. And and then in order to make sure to write statements for these particular names, I wanted to say my name is, let's say, Kiran, my name is Suresh, my name is Ravi, and all these things out. In order to do that, I'm using a looping concept or iteration. You can say loops or iterations and all these things out. And I'm using a loop called for each. So we're using a looping mechanism called for each. And the syntax of this particular loop and the syntax of this particular loop is, yeah, just give me a second, guys. Okay, so the syntax of this particular loop is for each, the condition that we want to give in, and the statement that you want to run. And in this case, I want to run a simple write host statement. And in order to iterate on the sorry, in order to iterate on the array, I want to say something like for each dollar name in dollar names, or for each dollar value in dollar names. Since I'm changing this to value because I've already used name out here. So value in names. So I'm telling please use this particular dollar value as a dummy parameter, as let's say a dummy parameter out here, and go over this particular array. So the first time dollar value should be equal to Kiran, second time dollar value should be equal to Suresh, third time dollar value will be equal to Ravi out here. So if I take that particular logic and put it inside, let's say, this particular loop, and I'll say write host, let's say my name is dollar value, and if I execute this particular loop, I will have Kiran, Suresh, and Ravi out here. This is how, or this is what we were doing yesterday. So just to give a quick recap on what we were doing yesterday. So any questions still here on the loop part or anything, anyone who's confused, anyone who didn't get it, please let me know. I'll try to explain it once again. Any questions still? Yes, it's a printf statement in C programming. So it's printf is similar to write host. So just to write something or to print something on your output console.
Yeah, hi Kiran. Sai
Just a
Kumar.
second. I was just taking a question offline. Just a second. Just give me 1 second, Sai. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yes, you can pass a file also, but to pass a file, you have a different command there to get the contents of the file. We'll also talk about file handling in PowerShell. Yes, you had a question. Hmm. And if you want a serial number, let's say from for example, you want to write Ravi 1 to Ravi 50. Yes, you can do that. We'll also look at that. We'll also look at how do you produce those names instead of let's say giving an array out there. We'll also look at that, but I need to explain one more concept before I go ahead and explain the same thing. Yes, Sai Kumar or someone online had a question, right?
Yeah, you didn't find
Hmm.
any drop box and foreground color when you're changing the color. So I didn't see any option like that.
When you're changing the color, I'm sorry.
Yeah, foreground. I mean, I didn't find any drop box. I mean, drop name on there. So I'm getting information
Which
action.
okay, which
Hold on. Yeah,
version of PowerShell that you're using?
yeah.
What is the version of PowerShell that you're using?
The same using 1 point something.
5 point something.
Yes, yes, 5 point something.
Okay, so it's 5.1 dot something like this, right? So
Yes, yes.
just restart your machine once and try out the write host statement. You should be able
Okay,
to let's say just give a let's say foreground color out here. Sometimes the IntelliSense to come into picture, it will take some time. So please allow it some time. For the very first time when you're using PowerShell, it will take some time to let's say load all these things out here.
okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of questions in the chat window. When we will use run script and the run section. So in Mac, how do we download PowerShell ISC? So in Mac, you do not have PowerShell ISC. So Mac doesn't really support ISC out there, but you can download a software called VS Code in Mac operating systems. There's something called VS Code. This is a software that you can download, and in this software you can run the PowerShell command. I'll also show you how to download that and run PowerShell commands out there. When will we use the run script section in the run section? So two things out here. Good question. Is that when am I using the run script? There's something called as selection, and there's something called run script out here. See, run script is to run your program end to end. If you want to run everything, I'll just go ahead and click on this one. It's telling hello world, and then it went ahead printed out all these things out here. But if I want to run just a section of my script, let's say in my case, I just want to give a demo on for each loop. I just want to select a section of my script and run this out. So I'll just select all those things and then run the selection out there. So it just depends upon what do you want to really run. Do you want to run your script end to end, or do you want to run, let's say, this one? Very popularly, we run a script end to end when we want to achieve something. Let's say when I'm running end to end, I have some failures. Let's say in line number 100, I have some failure out there. So I'll go to that particular line, only execute that particular line, and then see why am I getting that error? Why am I let's say not getting that particular let's say value and all these things out there. So it just depends upon what am I doing. Am I trying to run entire thing to achieve something, or am I debugging? If I want to debug, then I'll run line by line selection to understand which line is throwing that particular error and how do I resolve that particular error as such. Yes, any more questions? Okay, one thing that I want to achieve here is this. See, this is good enough. The statement is good enough, which is telling me that guys, can you please go on mute if you're not speaking, please. This is good enough, which is writing my name is Kiran, my name is Suresh, my name is Ravi, and all these things. This is good enough out here. But what I want to do is that see these three people belong to three different regions. One belongs to Hyderabad, the other belongs to Mumbai, the other belongs to Pune. Some three different regions. So what I'll do is I'll take another array telling locations, and I'll say is equal to at the rate HYD Hyderabad, MUM Mumbai, and then something like Pune. So now I want to write a statement telling that, hi, my name is Kiran, or my name is dollar value, any which ways I have that one. I belong to Hyderabad, or I belong to Mumbai, or I belong to Pune, depending upon which location they actually belong to out there. Which means that I don't have one loop out here right now, or I don't have one array right now. I have two different arrays that I want to print. So can I do something like this? Can I say my name is dollar value, which is okay, good with me. I'll say I belong to dollar locations. Can I do this? Can I do something like this?
No, sir.
Yes, no, maybe.
No.
If I do this, then what would be the output of this particular script? Let's see that. So let's see our script. In the very first line, it is telling names. Kiran, Suresh, and Ravi are the three names basically that I do have. In the second line, which is line number 6 out here, I have Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Pune. And what am I now doing is that I'm doing a for each loop right now, telling for each value in dollar names. I'm iterating over that particular names array, and I'm saying my name is value. I belong to this particular locations out here. And if I execute this out, so let me execute that out here. This is the output that I'm getting. Just my name is Kiran. I belong to HYD Pune. And then my name is Suresh. I belong to Hyderabad, Mumbai, Pune. My name is Ravi. I belong to Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Pune out here. Is this the right output that we were expecting? Not really. Then how do I resolve this out? This is not the right output for sure. Then how do I go about resolving this out here?
You have to create a array for location, I think.
So you have to include it in for each out here. For each locations, correct. But if I want to do that, do I not want one more array inside and sorry, one more loop inside a loop? Because see, there are two things out here. I'm iterating over the first loop. If I do the second loop out here, I'll say for each. I'll say for each item in dollar locations. You can say right host. Something like this one. I'll say location is dollar item. If I execute this one, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Pune, but I want this loop. Sorry, I want this array to be a part of this particular array. Meaning I want both of them to execute parallelly. So what I'll do is I'll cut this out. And if I paste it in here, I'll take this statement out. I'll paste it here, and in place of locations, I'll change this to item. So what I have right now is a parent for each loop, inside which I have one more for each loop out here, a child for each loop. So I have a parent and a child right now. The parent is this particular loop. The child is this particular loop, wherein in the parent, I'm iterating over an array called dollar names, which has all my names. In a child loop, I'm iterating over this particular, let's say, array called locations out here, because I have two different, let's say, arrays out here. And if I execute this out, let's see how I get things out. Again, I'll just change this color to, let's say, something like green or something like that, so that we can differentiate things out. And I'll execute this one. And this is what I got. So it's telling my name is Kiran. I belong to Hyderabad. The second line, it's telling my name is Kiran. I belong to Mumbai. Third line is telling my name is Kiran. I belong to Pune. Fourth line, it is telling my name is Suresh. I belong to Hyderabad. My name is Suresh. I belong to Mumbai. My name is Suresh. I belong to Pune. It should have printed out three lines. It should have just said my name is Kiran. These are the three statements that I'm actually expecting. My name is Kiran, I belong to Hyderabad. My name is Suresh, I belong to Mumbai. My name is Ravi, I belong to Pune. These are the 3 lines that I'm expecting, but it ended up printing around 333, 9 lines. Why do you think this is happening right now? What is the issue with this particular statement? Let's do this. It's running 9 iterations exactly. But why is it running 9 iterations out there? I have given, sorry. Correct. But if I do not give the child item, or if I do not give this particular child loop, then my PowerShell will never iterate over locations. That's the issue. If I directly give locations, it's giving me all the 3 locations at one go. Then if then if I iterate over this particular child loop, it's giving me 9 lines out here that's getting printed out. Let's understand this. Let's see what is really happening. The script is starting at, let's say, line number 6, wherein it is telling me that what is there in the names array, what is there in the locations array. In the names there are 3, in the locations there are 3. It's coming here into the for each, and it's saying dollar value is equal to Kiran. Because first time this loop is getting executed, dollar value is now Kiran. It's going inside and it's now telling, oh, okay, fine. I find one more loop out here, which is a for each. And until and unless I run this for each, I won't come out of the parent loop. First, the child, the child loop will be completely executed out here. Only then it will come back again to the parent loop. So let's understand this. So it's now coming inside this loop, and the dollar item is becoming what? HYD Hyderabad. What it's now doing, it's telling my name is dollar value. Dollar value is what? Kiran. I belong to what? HYD Hyderabad. Printing sorry, printing this out in a green color out here. Good enough. After this, what is happening is that it's again going back to this particular loop. It's telling now it is not Hyderabad, it is what? Mumbai, but dollar value is still Kiran. It did not go back to the parent loop. Dollar value is still Kiran out here. So it's telling my name is Kiran. I belong to Mumbai. Then it's telling, okay, fine. You know what? In this array, there is one more item which is called Pune. So now it is not Mumbai, it is Pune right now. And then it's again running. My name is Kiran. I belong to what? Pune out here. 3 times out here. It said, okay, fine. This is done. Let me go back. And now I see the value here changes to Suresh. It comes inside the loop and it's now telling item is equal to Hyderabad, Mumbai, Pune. It's again executing the same thing for Suresh as such. So that's the reason we have 3 into 3. So for each and every name, it's running thrice because the location here has 3 items out there. So for each and every name, it's running thrice, which is not a desired output. Which is not really something that I'm desiring out there. Which means a for each loop is not the best condition, meaning a for each loop inside a for each loop is not the best, let's say, condition for this particular, let's say, requirement that I'm trying to, let's say, resolve. For which I'm jumping down into another looping concept, which is called as a for loop. A for looping mechanism which answers a lot of questions like indexing, which you were asking something like, you know, what if I want to generate multiple names, if I want to put it in an array. All these are addressed by something known as for loop out here. So let's understand how a syntax of a for loop really works out there, and let's try to implement this for loop condition for the problem that we have, for the problem statement that we have out here. So let's go there and say this again. The syntax of a for loop is something like this. It is for open close parenthesis and the statement out here, whatever statement that you want to execute. Now in this condition, you will have to give, let's say, 3 different statements out here. What do I mean by that? Is something like this. I will say that $I or $A, B, C, whatever it is, I'll start with a value called 0. So I'm telling $I is equal to 0. I'm telling that, okay, fine, $I is equal to 0. And until $I is less than a particular number, let's say, I'll say until $I is less than 100, please execute this particular statement. I'm giving a condition out here. So what I'll do, in order to give less than, I cannot type less than. I need to give a mathematical operator in PowerShell by using something called hyphen, and then it will give me a lot of conditions out here. Here, what I want to do is I'll say less than. So the operator here is LT, less than. If you want to give less than or equal to, it is LE, less than or equal to. If you want to give greater than, GT, greater than or equal to GE, equal to EQ, not equal to NE. These are the operators. So what I'll do is that I'll say if $I is less than 100, if this is less than 100, then please increase the value of I by 1. I plus plus. I plus plus is nothing but I plus 1, meaning start I at 0 and run this loop until this particular condition is satisfied. Meaning I is 0, 0 is less than 100, yes, condition is satisfied, I'll execute the loop. I, again, after executing the loop, it will come back here. It will increment the value of I. So let's execute this out once and see what is happening right now. Let's say write host value of I is $I. I'm just giving something called $I out here. I'm just printing what is the value that I'm getting with this particular I out there. And I'm saying execute this out. So value of I started from 0. It said 1, 2, 3, so on, so forth till 99 out here. Why not 100? Because 100 is not less than 100. 100 can be less than or equal to 100, but it's not definitely less than 100. So it took till 19, let's say 99 out here. Again, if you want to take this condition out from here, if it's confusing you, you can put it here as well. Meaning, if I, meaning here I'm telling, start the value of I from 0. And if I is less than 100, go ahead, execute this particular statement, and then increase the value of I by 1. You can also give it here if it is confusing you inside that particular bracket. So even if I do this one, let me put a smaller value like 10 so that I'll be able to fit it everything inside the same screen. Same thing happened. Even if I put 100, same thing will happen. So it said, the very first time it said I is equal to 0 and is 0 less than 10? Yes. Executed the loop and increase the value of I by 1. So $I is equal to I plus 1. So 0 plus 1, 1. Came here, it said, okay, the value of I is 1. Is 1 less than 0? Sorry, is 1 less than 10? Yes. Executed out once again. Increase the value of I by 1, which meaning 1 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It also would have tried 10. It said 10. Is 10 less than 10? No. Don't execute the loop, break the loop away. This is how it is, let's say, working. If I change the condition out here, okay? Now everything is a game with the condition out there. If I change the condition to less than or equal to, it is also giving me the additional value called 10, meaning I totally have 11 values here, starting from 0 to 10, 11 out here. What if I give a condition? What if I give this condition right now? It won't execute at all. Let's see that. Nothing happened. See, 0 is never greater than or equal to 10. So it even did not execute once. Infinity will happen if I equal to 11 exactly. If I is greater than, let's say, 10. If this is the condition, I is 11, the 11 value will always and always be greater than, let's say, 10. It'll go inside the loop, say that the value of I is what, 10 out here or 11 out here, increase the value by 1, it'll go to 12. Again 12 will come here, evaluate the condition. This will become an infinite loop. So if I let my computer open and run it, it'll run for the whole day, and the program will keep running out here. It's now going inside an infinite loop as such out there. Reason being, the condition here is getting satisfied again and again. I started with 11 and I said, okay, fine, if I is greater than or equal to 10, only then the infinite loop is coming out here. Again, let's say I want the loop to be infinite, but I want it to stop after a number. Let's say 1000. I wanted to stop after a number called 1000. So what I'll say is, if I'll put something called as an if condition, I'll say if $I is equal to 1000, then I will say break the loop out here. This is called a circuit breaker logic, meaning I'm putting a logic out here telling if this condition is met, then please come out of that particular loop. And if I execute this out, it came till 99. It broke the loop there at 99 out here. It never printed 100 out there as such. Yes, any questions still here with this particular looping logic out here on what is for loop? How exactly can we take the for loop out here and all these things out? So then how do I implement this particular for loop into this particular array? So let's get that array again inside the second tab. Let's place this array here. Let's delete the for loop for now, or comment the for loop for now. And let's see this. See, when you declare an array in PowerShell, each and every array has something called as an index value. That's where I'm coming down to. What exactly do I mean by index? Is that very simple? If you take a book will have its own pages and an index out there telling that which chapter is in which page. That's how a book stores in its memory, telling that, okay, fine, if you go to this particular page number, you'll be able to read this particular chapter. Same way, what PowerShell does is that whenever you declare an array out here, PowerShell tells that, okay, fine, this array has an index value starting at 0. Page number, let's say 0. And at 0, I have someone called Kiran. At 1, I have Suresh. At 2, I have Ravi out here. So meaning, if I just want to get one name, I'll say $names, open close square bracket, 0. If I do a 0 out here, I'll get Kiran. If I do a 1 out here, I'll get Suresh. If I do a 5, nothing, null value, meaning at the position 5, there's nothing. So it just didn't print out anything out there telling that, okay, fine, 5, I don't find anything, null value out here. Meaning, even this array called locations will have its own index value, which is $locations, index value 0 will give me Hyderabad, locations index value 1 will give me Pune, $locations index value 2 will give me, let's say, Mumbai, Pune, and all these things. Meaning, if I am able to do a right host, telling that my name is $names 0, which is Kiran. I belong to $locations 0, and if I'm able to copy this out, paste it here, and change the value to 1, Again paste this here and change the value to 2. My problem is resolved, partially at least. The problem is resolved, telling that okay fine, my name is Kiran, I belong to Hyderabad, my name is something. So if I execute this out, again there's an issue. If you look at this particular statement, it is telling my name is Kiran Suresh Ravi and then 0 out there. I belong to Hyderabad, Mumbai, Pune, and then bracket 0. Then it's telling my name is Kiran Suresh Ravi 1, something like this. So meaning PowerShell is not able to treat. I need to tell PowerShell that you know what, these two is one variable. Don't treat it separately. PowerShell will treat it separately if you are passing it in double quotes. PowerShell will treat variables separately if you're passing it in double quotes. So what I'll do is instead of writing something like this, I will say dollar $of like this. I'll say dollar open close parenthesis, dollar names, open close brackets, telling PowerShell very simply that you know what, the entire thing is one single value. In order to tell it, I'm giving a dollar open close, and inside that I'm giving my value. I'll apply the same thing to my location as well. Say dollar open and close parenthesis, and I'll copy these things out here right now. Change this to 1. I'll copy this one. I'll change this to 2. I'll change this one to 2. If I do this, if I execute this one, I'm able to get something. It's telling my name is Kiran, I belong to Hyderabad, my name is Suresh, I belong to Mumbai, my name is Ravi, I belong to Pune out here. But again, this is very manual approach. Meaning if there are 100 different names, I have to write this 100 different statements, change the value to 100 and all that stuff. But if I can use a for loop out here, if I say for I is equal to 0, dollar $I is less than 3, because there are 3 values out here, 0, 1 and 2, 3 values out here. And I'll say I plus plus, and then if I write this statement here, instead of 0, can I say yes exactly dollar $I, because dollar $I values in which way is getting iterated. And here I'll again say dollar $I, and I can give a foreground color something like green. And if I now execute this loop, I'm able to get the same thing but in a better way. I'm able to get the same thing, but I don't have to write my statements again and again. But instead, I'm replacing these static numbers with the dollar $I using the concept of a for loop out here. So for loop is much more better when you want to iterate multiple arrays parallelly. If you want to go ahead and iterate those arrays parallelly, for loop for loop will become a better concept out here than a for each loop out there. Yes, any questions till here? Any questions that I can take till here? Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. Mm-hmm. You have to give their I minus minus, yes. Meaning you cannot give an I minus minus. You'll have to say I is equal to I minus 1. You can do that until you have. Then you have to, let's say, tell a condition that if I is less than or equal to 0, you have to get it till 0 out there. You can do that.
In for
Yes.
each loop, can we use break?
You can use a break, meaning you can go ahead, do an if statement out there and do a break. That breaks can be applied to any loop, for each, for, do while, anything. You can
Uh,
use a break out there.
Here, after write host, if we put the break, can we get the output?
Not really, because your loop will break there. Your loop will itself is going to break there. So I won't
After
be able to put up. Yeah, after for
Af-
each. So if, mhm.
After first iteration, it will be break.
Y- See,
Af-
again, it
af-
depends upon where you're putting the break. It depends
After
exactly on
right
where you're putting.
first.
Mhm. After
After
right first,
right
but what
first.
is, yes, what is your condition then? To put a break, then what would be your condition? If you want to put a break, I need to give a condition. Then what should
Okay.
be the condition that I need to give here? I cannot say dollar item is equal to Hyderabad then break, then Hyderabad will never come into picture. So the break logic here is not that much implemented.
Okay. Okay. Kiran.
You can use a condition. Again, it depends upon what you're trying to do. In this case, I cannot use a condition. In this case, the use case of a condition is not that much out there. But if I do a different logic where which needs a condition, which we'll see on how a condition really works out, then I can also use multiple conditions out there. This one. Yes. In for loop, we don't know the value. This one. Exactly. Meaning, if someone goes ahead, adds a third name or a fourth name, exactly. That's a good point. That's where I'm coming down to. Meaning, if I have a new name called Satish, I'll put your name Satish, right? If I put a new name and put a new location, saying location one, for each loop or the for loop cannot accommodate this. Meaning, you are never coming into picture. Your name is never coming into picture because here the condition is what? It is less than 3. This is now less than 3, meaning 0, 1, 2. Third value will never come into picture. This is a static loop, meaning I have to come here, change the value to 4 to get you inside, let's say, this particular for loop out here. Can I say sorry? Can I come again? Greater than 0. This one. So if this is greater, yeah, greater than 0. But if this is done, then what I'll do is that I'll print out everything, but I'll go into an infinite loop condition. Break is not there, so I'll go into an infinite loop condition out here. Again, let's see. It should be not greater than 0. It should be greater than equal to 0. Exactly. So if I come here, after a point, it will start breaking. Meaning after a point, I'll be able to achieve this. But if you look at this one, I put in a lot of statements in there. So if I just scroll all the way up together, somewhere in the beginning, it would have put something like my name is something like this. Let's see. So the first 4 statements got printed. After that, it started breaking things out. So to accommodate this, what I can do is that see, this names is an array right now, which has properties to it. So yesterday we looked at the property. Let me come down. Let's do a CLS clear screen out here to clear all these things. Names is an array. And if I say names dot get type, this is what we were doing yesterday, right? It will tell you that this is an array out here. If I do names dot or names dot count, value 4. So what I can tell here is that instead of taking I is greater than 0 or something like this, I can say I is less than names dot count. To always and always make sure that I take the count or I take the real count of the array instead of me going into the script and changing this out. Again, this will work in the same way. But instead of giving a value or instead of giving a value called 3 or 2 or something like that, I'm going ahead and I'm telling dot count, which wherein I'm making my array dynamic in nature. So dot count, dot length, anything will give you the same thing out here. Yes, any more questions here? Again, there's one more question that someone asked is that how do I generate multiple names inside that particular array? Let's say Ravi 0, Ravi 1, Ravi 2 to let's say Ravi 100. Can I generate that out and put this in? Yes, it is possible with let's say for loop also, I mean for loop here. I'll also talk about how do you generate and all these things are. But before I go there, any questions with this particular looping mechanism?
We can't change it for color, you know.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Can
We
you come again,
can't change.
please?
We can't change it for color. Like there
You
is two
can change the
statements
color.
there. Yeah.
You you can change the color, but what you need to do if you want to change the color is that you have to give something like another array called color, wherein you can tell all the allowed colors like green, yellow, and all that stuff. So I'll say green, I'll say yellow, and multiple colors out here. And if I do that, what I need to do is that in foreground color, here instead of giving the color actually, instead of giving the actual color, I can say color $I. So in this way, whatever color that you declare there, those colors will be changing inside this particular, let's say, statement out there as such. So you can do the color as well. You can iterate over the colors, but you need an array for a color. You need arrays for this particular color. Like let's say if I do a green, yellow, green, and yellow again, and if I now execute these statements out here, come on. So alternatingly is giving me multiple colors out there. Again, if you have multiple colors in that particular array, you can change those colors. The only thing that I'm doing here is that instead of giving a color, I'm giving a parameter called $color, and then iterating over it using the same I out here that I had. So you can do the same thing out here as such. Yes, any questions? Any more questions with this? Sorry, yeah. We can use line termination symbols as well, but I'm not, let's say, using it here. You can do a line termination symbol as well out here. Multiple statements. Yes, you can do that. You can do a separator also. So if you want to do that, if you see this one, let's say write host PowerShell. Let's look at that particular documentation. If you look at write host PowerShell, go into the first document out here, take the example. No new line, separator. You can use all these things in order to separate things out there. So you just need to tell what is your separator. For example, here you have a separator out there, and if you write host out there, it will add this particular separator between each and every word. So just do a write host. This will give you like good amount of examples on what kind of a separator that you can use. Mhm. Yes. Right. Yes, you don't have to do that. Yes, you don't have to do that. Yes, I mean for a bash, yes, you do a semicolon out there to tell that that particular statement is ended. This here you don't have to. We just put it in a different line. That's it. And finally, I'll also take the question on that. You know what? I need names starting like a single pattern like Ravi 0, Ravi 1, Ravi 2, Ravi 3 and all that stuff. I don't want to write it. I want 100 different names out here. Yes, you can do that. For that, what you can do is you can say something like, sorry, you can say something like this. I'll declare something called names, an empty array. I'll start with an empty array out here. And I'll say for I is equal to 0, I is less than or equal to 100. Let's say I need 100 different names out here. I'll say I plus plus. And what I'll do is that I'll say dollar name. I'll just declare a name called Ravi. This is a simple name called Ravi. And I'll say dollar names plus equal to. What am I doing? Is that I'm adding values inside the array that I declared, which is an empty array out there. I'm adding values inside the array, and I'll say name plus $I. I am adding two things out here. Name Ravi, $I value becomes 0 for the first time, 1 for the second time, and all these things out. and I'm doing a plus equal to, telling that okay fine, please add this names into the array called names out here. And if I run this out, and if I look at my names array, it's now giving me Ravi 0 to Ravi 100. So what I did out here is that this was starting to start with, this was an empty array. I took a for loop. Inside that particular for loop, I just declared a name called Ravi, and this can be outside the for loop also. Like it doesn't have to be inside the for loop, it can be outside the for loop also. And in here I am just saying dollar name, which is Ravi, plus dollar I, which is 0 for the first time, 1 for the second time, and so on and so forth. And I'm adding it inside the main array called dollar names out here. And once I mean, this is an addition or also called concatenation. So we concat it, meaning it's called concatenation out here. Concatenation is nothing but a sophisticated way to call addition out there. Concatenation, concatenation or addition, anything is the same out there. So I am adding two different strings. There's one string called name, the other string called, let's say, the 0, 1, 2, and so on. Adding these both, I'm producing a name out there as such. And finally, here, very importantly, I'm giving a plus equal to. If you observe this, a plus equal to means whatever name that you get, add this inside the main array called dollar names as such. And once I execute this out, it'll go ahead and give me that entire names array and store it inside dollar names out here as such. So yes, you can do that by using if condition. You can break it and write another name and all these things. I get all these names as such out here. Yes. Any questions here? You can increment by 2, but if you want to increment by 2, what you do is that take this out here. Don't worry about this one. Take this out here. Come here. Say I plus 2. Do an I plus 2 out there. Let's see if this gets incremented. I'm not too sure. Let's see. Okay. And it's breaking the circuit. It's breaking the loop out there. Let's see. One thing that I missed is this one. I'll say I is equal to I plus 2. So if I run this out right now, and if I look at my names, starting with 0, going to 2, 4, 6, so on and so forth. So the condition has to change. Dollar $I is equal to I plus 2 is what I did. So I'm incrementing it by 2 out there. Yes, any questions? Anyone, any questions still here? Anyone, any questions still here that I can take?
So in this for loop, right, I less than 100. So this
Correct,
100 is not an index. It is an up till that value we have to
correct. Up
iterate.
till that value, you have to iterate your loop. Correct. Okay, some questions in the chat box. Okay, is initialization not needed? No, initialization is not needed. Initialization is something that is a program terminology that do you want to initialize, telling that it's a string, it's a integer, or it's a character. No, it is not required out there in PowerShell. How will it recognize? Yes, because here it recognizes by the data type that you're giving. Is it an array or is it a string and all these things? By the data type that you're giving out there. Initialization is not really required. VS Code, yes, it's Visual Studio Code. Can you please show me how should I write PowerShell in VS Code? Explain it. Yes, definitely. I'll take it in tomorrow's session on how to install, let's say, VS Code. And the only reason that I'm installing is because someone has a Mac laptop and they won't be able to, let's say, use PowerShell out there. So I'll be able to show you how to install it in a Mac laptop and how to get your, let's say, program started out there. Or I would say, just to avoid things to go a little sidetrack, please send me across an email to classes azuredevops@gmail.com and I'll reply back to you on how to install the VS Code and how to go ahead and run PowerShell script on there on your terminal as such out there in a Mac. Yes, any more questions here? Yes, you will have to increase your locations as well, because this loop is going parallelly. It's going parallelly with each other. So you'll have to increase your locations when you're increasing this particular, let's say, loop as such. Correct. Yes, any more questions, guys? Anyone, any questions till here? No, you cannot eliminate the condition, because you will have to tell your loop. Yes, they have to be there, because you have to tell your loop till which number you have to go to, what is the condition you have to satisfy, and all these things. So if I remove this out, then this loop doesn't really have a lot of meaning. So I is equal to 0, it's telling if I is equal to 0, and if I execute this out, it's not really going to do anything, or it's going to throw some error out there for me. So condition really doesn't get satisfied out there. Yes, anyone, any more questions here? Any questions still here? So the intention, correct. If loop you can do, if I equal to 1, only then enter into that particular loop. Yes. Yes, any questions? Anyone, any questions? Mhm. Yes, in this condition I'll have to give manually, but again, if someone is declaring everything into a file, I can also use PowerShell to read a file, get all those names, and then execute those names and all these things. So the intention behind all these things is that now these are the basics that we are just understanding how PowerShell really works. What I want to do is that in place of names, in place of Kiran, Suresh, and all these things, I want to give RG1, RG2, RG3, RG4. And in place of locations, I want to give ECS to Central US and all these things. And I want to execute it out. And I want to create something in Azure, like 4 different resource groups, 4 different locations, and all these things by using these concepts out here. So that's what I really want to achieve at the end of, let's say, this particular, or let's say in these demos, that's what I want to achieve. But before I achieve that, I just need to, let's say, tell you all how exactly PowerShell works, and then how can we apply PowerShell to, let's say, something like Azure out there as such. Yes, any more questions, guys? Okay, email once again. This is the email. You find it in the chat window out here. classes@devops@gmail.com. That's the email address that I do have. All right. Thank you and have a good day ahead, guys. We'll meet tomorrow. We'll discuss more on this. Thank you.